Good afternoon, my dear students. Today we are going to discuss about internal control. Actually, I'm facing with some technical problem. That is why some disturbance is coming. So let us uh, define as per the slide shared by me. You can see here introduction about the internal control. So what is the internal control? In auditing process, internal control plays a crucial role for the auditing process. So with this, auditing will be helpful and it will be fruitful for the entire auditing procedure. So let us look into the definition of the auditing. The definition of auditing is clearly saying that the process that is designed by the management and affected by those charged with the governance management and other personnel to provide reasonable assurance about the achievement of the company's objective. So it is designed by the internal management and it is affected by the charged who governance or the management and other personal team of the business concern. So it will provide the reasonable assurance to the company about the achievements of the company's objective. So what are the importance of the internal control? It is categorized into four types. So the importance to help organization to exert control over business process and also risk management, compliance with the applicable laws and regulations, and the fourth one, better communication. Control over the business, risk management, compliance with the applicable laws and regulations, and the final one is better communication. How these will be impact on the internal control as well as the auditing, we can discuss in today topic. And also internal control also categorized into two types: preventive controls and defective controls. In the last classes we discussed about this. It is to avoid, the preventive control is to avoid errors or regulatories or the regulations. It is to avoid the regulations or the mistakes which have framed. And the second one is defective control. Preventive control is to avoid the errors, and detective control is to find. Already it has been found, and it is to find and to segregate or allocate the errors after they have occurred in the auditing process. So preventive control is before taking an action, before error has been come, and the defective control is to find or allocate the errors. And the responsibilities towards the internal control. The first responsibilities is for the management and the second one is to the auditor. The management responsibilities for the management is to develop, establish and maintain. To develop, establish and maintain. And the second one is to provide reasonable assurance of operations. To develop, establish and maintain. It is the responsibility of the management what it has to be developed the internal control before going to done any development. The internal control has to first develop, then it has to establish in the business organization, then it has to be maintained. Even though they developed and established, if it is not maintained properly, it could not be able to success in the internal control of any business concern. And the second responsibility of the management is to provide reasonable assurance of operations. It will be provide a reasonable assurance, a reasonable assurance of the operations, because the internal control system is maintained and it is designed by the management itself. So for the development of the internal control, management having two major responsibilities, that is to develop, establish and maintain the internal control, and the second one is to provide reasonable assurance of operations, and the second one is auditor, for the auditor responsibilities. Auditor responsibilities, auditor responsibilities are about to obtain in understanding, to obtain in understanding and to test the effectiveness and to express an opinion. These are three types. What are the three types? To develop, sorry, to obtain understanding, to test the effectiveness, and to express an opinion. So how this will be helpful? So what are the components are involved in the internal control? We can show with this next slide. So these are the components of major components which are playing key role in the auditing. What are the components? First is control environment, risk assessment, control activities, monitoring, and information communication. What are the five components? Control environment, risk assessment, control activities, monitoring, information, and communication. So first component is about component of control environment, component of control environment. So as we discussed in the previous slide, it is about set of standards, process, procedures, and structures. We are discussing about control environment. So it is about set of standards, process, procedures, and structures, and also overall attitude and actions of the management. So these are the two major steps involved in the control environment. First is about the integrity and ethical values. What are the control environment is integrity and ethical values. These are the environmental first step, and second step is about the commitment to competence, integrity and ethical values, and commitment to competence, and also the participation of board of directors and audit committee. These three are the major portion of the control environment. And also, apart from these three, the management and the philosophy and the operating style, authority and the responsibility about the company structure and the human resource policies and procedures. These all aggregatingly effect on the control environment of the internal control. So, integrity and ethical values are a- affecting the control environment, communication to commitment to competence also, controlling the environment, and the participation of board of directors and audit committee, management philosophy and operating style, and also authority and responsibility, company structure, human resource policies and procedures. These are majorly in impacting the control environment of internal control. And the second step is about risk assessment. The risk assessment. What is risk? Generally, risk is possibility. What possibility? Possibility that an event will occur and adversely affect the achievement of the objectives. It may happen. There is a chance of happen. It is a possibility, so that an any event, a possibility that an event will occur and adversely affect the achievement of objectives. So this is about the risk. And what is risk assessment? It is a process of identifying, evaluating, analyzing, and responding to the risks. Process of identifying, evaluating, analyzing, and responding to the risk. The basis for determining how the risk will be damaged is achievement of the objectives. Required management to consider the impact of possible changes in the external and internal environment. For example, what are the requirements to the consider the management of possible changes in the external and internal environment? Examples are new personnel, rapid growth, new technology involvement, new products or achievements are the what are the services or the activities, and what are the information system and corporate restructuring. These are all the examples of the risk assessment components decisions. The assessment of for the financial reporting, it is related to the auditing we are discussing. Risk assessment financial reporting is preparation of the statements to conform with GAAP. GAAP is nothing but generally accepted accounting principles. So this is about the risk assessment of the internal control component. And third is about control activities. What are the control activities? It is having to ensure the management objectives are carried out, and also it is about to ensure necessary actions are taken to support the achievement of objectives, and also it is to be performed at levels of the company in various stages within the business processes and over technology environment. So it is having the main steps is about information processing control, segregation of duties, physical controls, performance reviews. These are the control activities. So with these control activities, the internal control system will be effective in the organization. And the next is about information and communication. Next step is information and communication. What is the information and communication objectives? It will be to provide the clear understanding of the individual role and responsibilities, and internally the communicates objectives and responsibilities, and externally communicate matters affecting the functioning of the other components of the internal control. What are the information and the financial reporting purposes in accounting system? The information technology and the communication is about the computer language and how this internal control system of the component will be related to the financial reporting purposes. So those are identifying the financial reporting purposes in the accounting system of information technology will be the identifying and record all valid transactions. Financial system reporting accounting system for the purpose that is identifying and record all valid transactions, and also record on timely basis, the record on timely basis for the information system to achieve the auditing procedure. It is for the internal control component. And the second one is about the proper recording of monetary value. The proper recording of monetary value and record transactions in the proper accounting period. What are the record transactions in the accounting process to be recorded in the proper accounting generally for the financial year from 1st April to 31st March, or else for the quarterly or 6 monthly, and means half yearly also accounting treatment can be done, and internal control also is allowing to do auditing procedure. And the present proper financial statement, it is one of the major component in the entire auditing process. It is about the present financial proper financial statements. And the final step is in the components of internal control is monitoring. What is monitoring and how it will be impacting in all the four other components. It is the component of monitoring or the observing or controlling of each and every component of internal control. It is the assess the quality of internal control performance over the time. It is the assess it will be the assess the quality of internal control performance over the time. Ongoing evaluations to the ascertain whether the components of the internal control are present and functioning. Ongoing evaluations to ascertain whether the components of internal control are present and functioning properly or not. And also, it assesses the design and operation of control. These are all the monitoring procedures in the internal control. What is the assess the design and operation of the control, and how evaluate the communicates to the internal control deficiencies and taking necessary corrective actions for the success of the internal control. And two major important aspects we have to remember in our mind about management control methods and internal audit function. Management management control methods and internal audit function. So what are the internal control auditors? Importance of the what is the importance of internal control auditors are to useful to prepare audit plan to enables auditors to complete their work in less than the time needs. It is an evidence from a system with a good internal control is more competent than evidence from a system with poor internal control. And what are the documents and the review of internal control? It is about the flow chart, system flow chart, written guidelines, copies of companies' manuals, and internal control questionnaire. And what are the requirement by regulators? So, as per the Indian auditing standards and the Indian accounting standards, and according to the Board of the Chartered Accountants of India, it has to be follow all the requirement regulations by the government. And what are the cyber threats to internal control? It is internet. So massive damage, data losses, disruption of the operations, leaked information, computer malware. As we discussed in the information communication system, these are all has to be verified by the auditor and the management of the any concern, business or the industry. It has to be follow. So these are all the components, major components of the internal control. And what are the strengths and weakness of the internal control? It strengthens the segregation of the function and authorizations and the input control and processing controls. But the weakness are high, that is human judgment, failure to understand or take action, inappropriate management to override of control, collusion by two or more people, management judgment, and cost benefit consideration. So these are about the major components of internal control system. How internal control components can be divided into these five categories are control environment is about the internal policies of the environment and the risk assessment and what are the new innovations have been introduced in the business will be affect on the internal control and the control activities about what are the activities informed in the business organization, information and communication about these policies, and the finally monitoring of the components of internal control. So internal control in the context of the auditing are policies and the procedures of company implements to ensure the reliability of financial reporting, operational effectiveness, and compliance with laws and regulations. Auditors evaluate these controls to assess the risk of material misstatements and determine the extent of their substantive testing. Essentially, internal control are the checks and balances that help organizations to achieve their objectives and minimize the risks that are accessed by the organization. And also, what are the key aspects? The internal control are designed to prevent, detect, and correct the errors and irregularities, ensuring the accuracy and reliability of financial information. The well-designed internal control system includes the various components such as we are discussed about internal control environment, risk assessment, and control activities, information and communication and monitoring. The auditor evaluates the effectiveness in internal control to determine how much they can rely on the company's financial statements, and also they perform test of control to assess whether the controls are designed and operating effectively or not. And the strong internal controls lead to more reliable financial reporting, and it is improving the operational efficiency for better risk management and enhanced compliance with the laws and regulations. And in our daily life, we can categorize some of the examples according to the internal control. Some segregation of duties, different employees handle different aspects of a transaction to reducing the risk of fraud, and approval and authentication process because ensuring that transactions are properly authorized before they are processed, and the comparing records such as bank statements to ensure accuracy and identity of discrepancies, and the physical security to control the access to physical assets and sensitive information, and the IT, information and communication, also implementing controls related to computer systems and data securities, and how internal controls affecting the auditing will be. It is reduced for need for substantive testing. If internal control are strong, auditor may reduce the amount of substantive testing they need to perform, and it is increasing the reliance on the company's financial statements. Strong internal control provide the greater assurance that financial statements are reliable. So auditors may identify weakness in internal control during the process of audit and recommendation improvements to the management. So these are the about internal control system. So it is the most important topic in the auditing. Internal controls are reducing or accounting and auditing process used in the company financial department that ensure the integrity of financial reporting and regulatory compliances. So these are the importance of internal control and also components of internal control. In the next tomorrow class, we will be discuss new topic in our auditing. Thank you.